Get ready for the Magic Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
Hey, that's right. It is the Magic Valley Prepcast. I hope you haven't forgotten about us. We are here to talk about District 4 athletics. Most weeks in, most weeks out here in the great state of Idaho. You can, of course, tune in and watch the Magic Valley Prepcast on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. We are coming to you live on a Friday morning about 10:15 local time here on a Friday morning. Of course, you can watch the Magic Valley Prepcast on replay anytime at those three destinations as well. You can also listen to the Magic Valley Prepcast at IdahoSports.com. All of our Prepcasts are located on the left side of the homepage. You can also listen to the Magic Valley Prepcast wherever you download and subscribe to your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, etc. My name is Brandon Baney. Let's bring in our Magic Valley expert. He's been a busy guy lately, busier than old St. Nick even. It's Scott Burton. Yo, what's going on, Scotty?
Oh, Brandon, man, I tell you what, last week was a absolute chaotic mess, and we didn't get a show done, and that's on me because I wasn't even in town. But we're back, and we've got games all over the place. So good to be back.
Well, you were gone last week. You were up at the North Pole doing quality control. You know.
yeah. Golly, it felt like it. Holy cow, what a Thanksgiving break that was. 6 states, 4 time zones, a couple of NFL games, some Florida beach time. I mean, it was just in a haunted hotel. It was insane.
And you've earned it. You know, typically in the past, what we've done is once the football championships are over, we do kind of take a week off from the show just to kind of decompress and get ready for the next sports season. Idaho has no chill, so all the sports seasons overlap and bleed together, but we always take that time. And so it was important for you to have that time off to get away and come back refocused, re-energized. The last time we spoke, it was ahead of the state semifinals. And then what happened during the championship slate of football games, we just had Gem State game day. Anything that we could have added to the conversation was said on Gem State game day ahead of those championship games. I did want to get your thoughts, though, Scott, just real quick on Cary winning the 1A state championship game over Dietrich. It was a tight battle. Dietrich actually led for most of that first half. Cary came back in the second half to get the win. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, you know, it was. And we talked a little bit about that in the game day, where it was going to be a different Dietrich team that showed up against Cary because they were a little bit disappointed in their own effort. And it started with their tackling in that first game where Cary just boat raced them. And they realized, you know, we're better than that. And so they came in with a little bit of chip on their shoulder. But at the end of the day, I think the more talented team was the team that hoisted the trophy. But, you know, it was a great battle between two awesome Southern Idaho teams, obviously top dogs 1 and 2, and then distant third with everybody else. But congratulations to both of those teams, and especially Cary for winning the state title.
Yeah, and anything we could have said about Cary, we covered on our Idaho 8-man Prepcast. This was a couple of weeks ago, but in case you missed it, we did interviews with Cary head coach John Saili. He did his interview with us, Scott, from Disney World in Florida. He was on vacation. As soon as they won the championship, he went on vacation with his family. He was doing the interview from his hotel room overlooking the Magic Kingdom down there in Florida.
I thought that was just on TV. Where are you going? I'm going to Disney World. Well, he did.
he actually did. And then we also did an interview with Preston Wood, the senior quarterback and safety for Cary High School as well. And that was great. He is an exceptional young man, bright future. So,
absolutely. What a great career he had at Cary. I mean, Mr. Everything for that football team, and great way to cap it off. A state trophy in the dome, and man, but what a great time he had. He's going to look back on fondly for years and years.
Yep, for sure. So congratulations once again, officially from the Magic Valley Prepcast. Congratulations to the Cary Panthers on another state championship in 8-man football. All right, Scott, today's show is going to be mostly about girls basketball now moving forward. The girls hoop season started a couple of weeks ago, of course. We're at that point of the season, Scott, where I don't know if I'll ever see the sun again. It looks kind of dark where I'm broadcasting because I'm just tired of the artificial light. I wanted some natural sunlight from my window, but this is all I'm getting today. It's just going to be gray where I live for the next 4 months.
Well, I've got the fire, and there's my light at the moment before I get ready to go host a basketball tournament over the next couple of days.
Oh yeah, the Jerry Callen Memorial Tournament this weekend. So
yeah, it starts today. Got some pretty good teams coming in. It's going to be a really, really good time.
Cool. That reminds me, I'm going to email Ann at Jerome High School and ask for rosters for the teams that are there competing. So I will.
Well, how about that?
Let me add that to my list so I don't forget. Okay. Girls basketball has started though, Scott. And so all of our previews are still up on the website at IdahoSports.com. We had something to say about every single team in the state of Idaho, gave you some key players, coaches, storylines. We even had our preseason coaches polls where all of the league coaches kind of predicted how they thought their league would finish. Since then, we have released our first statewide coaches poll of the season, and we will have a new update on the coaches poll later today as well for girls basketball. So you can stay tuned for that on IdahoSports.com. That's more of a statewide picture, but we're going to kind of go conference by conference, classification by classification, and give you kind of a quick primer on the teams, the players, the coaches, the storylines that we're keeping an eye on in girls basketball this season. You might be wondering, hey, what about boys basketball? It's coming. All right. I'm only one guy. We're working through it. By Monday, Scott, I'm hoping to have all of our boys basketball previews up and ready for everyone to consume. And then maybe next week on the show, Scott, we'll do the same thing, but with boys basketball. Does that sound okay?
Absolutely. And I keep telling you, Brandon, I'm getting closer and closer to retirement, and you'll have a lot more help.
I feel like you're what's the cop movie where the guy's like 1 day from retirement and he keeps getting...
that's me.
Yeah. And then wrestling real quick too. I know we got some wrestling diehards, especially in the Magic Valley. The Matt Chat Prepcast, our standalone wrestling podcast we do each and every week, is coming back. It's either going to be next week or the week after. We're still hammering out the details. We got some last minute contract negotiations on the table that we got to get taken care of from our wrestling crew. That's a joke, of course. But be on the lookout for the Matt Chat Prepcast as well, where we're going to talk wrestling each and every week here on IdahoSports.com. Also, lots of good Magic Valley wrestling that starts this weekend, Scott, actually.
Oh, man, you'd think after finishing fall sports where you've got 7 different sports going at the same time and you move into 3, it'd be a little easier. It is not. It is a completely different animal that doesn't ever stop. So buckle up. Here we go, because all 3 of them have started now.
Yep. No room to breathe. Okay, so circling back to girls basketball, Scott, we will start at the Class 6A ranks. Yes, we used to be able to bypass that here on the Magic Valley Prepcast, but Canyon Ridge in most sports is now a 6A program, including in girls basketball, where they were picked to finish 5th out of 5 teams in our preseason coaches poll. That was Madison 1, Rigby 2, Thunder Ridge 3, Highland 4, Canyon Ridge 5. Scott, I got to be honest. I think this is just the coaches in East Idaho don't know Canyon Ridge that well. I would be shocked if Canyon Ridge actually took last in this conference.
Well, boy, I just don't envy being a Riverhawk these days, having to make that jump and have your conference games be 2 hours away. It's just such a different feel and vibe, and it's tough, especially when you're a program that, isn't predicated on a lot of success. They haven't had a ton of success in the girls program, but it's not because they don't have athletes, they've got players, whatever, but now they're going to step up and play the likes of those teams. Man, not going to be easy for them for sure.
Yeah, I think Madison, the overwhelming favorite. Rigby is a clear number 2. 3, 4, and 5, Scott, I think could all finish in any given order. Yeah, Canyon Ridge went 1-17 last year, but Jesse Clark is laying the foundation. It's his second year as the head coach. He's got a couple of good all-around athletes to build on in Ava Stokes and Kaylee Smith, among others. And really, Highland, as somebody who used to live in Pocatello, and I lived in the Highland School District, it pains me to say this, but that program is in a bad spot. They just can't seem to pull up out of this quagmire that they're in. And then Thunder Ridge lost almost everybody to graduation. They bring back a couple of pieces, but to me, that 3, 4, 5 could finish in any order. Really, Canyon Ridge, I think, could be right there. So
no, and I think so too. I mean, it's because of those other teams that are down that's going to allow, Canyon Ridge to step it up a little bit. I mean, Canyon Ridge is coming back with a couple of players. It's not like they're completely in rebuild mode, but it's the step up in competition, especially with Madison and Rigby, that's going to be tough. And Thunder Ridge, they've got a brand new head coach as well, and they graduated 5 players from a team last year that went 9-15. So it could be a little bit closer than people expect, especially like you said in that 3, 4, 5. But we'll see what happens.
There are opportunities, that is for sure. So let's take a look at the Class 5A ranks now. The Great Basin Conference. It used to be the Great Basin 7, Scott, and then Canyon Ridge moved up and Wood River moved down, and now it's the Great Basin 5. We just call it the Great Basin Conference because the number is different for every sport now, depending on what sport it is.
Wow.
But this is a tight 5-team affair. This was a very close vote in terms of the preseason poll. I will tell you, Jerome and Mountain Home were separated by a single point in our preseason coaches poll. Jerome gets the nod though, Scotty. The Tigers number 1 in the preseason poll, Mountain Home 2nd, Twin Falls 3rd, Burley 4th, Minico 5th. So it appears to be a 2-team race at the top, but you tell me, you're the guy that's in it every night.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it does appear to be a 2-team race at the moment, but anything can happen and injuries will change the course of everything. But as it stands right now, I mean, you're looking at, first of all, start with Jerome. I mean, they're coming off of a really good campaign, 20-7 last year. They got revenge on Minico and CJ Lotta in the, state game last year. But their problem right now is they're not healthy. They have been without Cook and Lloyd all season. And who knows if Lloyd's coming back. And she is so important to that program because she gives them inside post presence and some toughness. And without it, Jerome is a perimeter team. And it's tough to win that way. And you've got one of your best shooters out still. So if they can get healthy and they can find some inside paint presence, just some of that toughness around the rim, then they're gonna be all right. I mean, they still have to do the little things right. And I'm watching it going, okay, we've got to do a lot more little things correctly if we're going to win. Now, on the other side, you've got Mountain Home, and this is a team that I'm really impressed with. Brent Keener, 18 years at the helm. I mean, this is a guy that's been around the block. In fact, when I was coaching girls basketball, he was coaching Mountain Home. So, I mean, we coached against each other, and he's also a really, really good friend of mine. But this is a team that brings back everybody. And they may have the conference player of the year and sophomore point guard Lexi Longhurst. This gal can play basketball. As a freshman last year, she was the straw that stirred the drink. I mean, she was the floor general as a freshman, and her ball handling skills, holy cow. She can distribute the basketball, and it makes it hard to put pressure on a team like that when you've got a ball handler like her. This is a gal, if you haven't seen her play, man, check her out because she is phenomenal. And this Mountain Home team is stacked, and yep. I'm impressed with them. So those are the 1-2 that everybody's looking at. So now you're looking at a spoiler. Who potentially could come in and mess things up? Well, Twin Falls, they've got a brand new coach, Kevin Cato, coming in. He's been around the block a lot. He's been at Hagerman. He's been at Canyon Ridge. I mean, he's been all over the place, and now he's a Twin. And Twin's Twin. They're going to get up and defend you. They're going to have some size. They're going to be physical. Whether or not they can score from the perimeter like they have been in the past, I guess we'll see. But they could spoil. But Burley's another one to keep an eye on because they get a player back this year that they lost last year, Sydney Sheets, who was out the entire year last year with an injury. Getting her back as a senior leader is really going to do a lot for this Burley team. So they could play spoilers. But, Minico, on the other hand, that's the team that lost CJ Lotta, the all-world player. And they're in they're in rebuild mode. I mean, they've got, Stroud and Hitt coming back, but that's a team that's going to be in a little bit of a rebuild. So Mountain Home Jerome, flip them one way or the other. We'll see. And I'll have them both at the tournament, the Callan tournament this weekend. And then let's see if Twin and Burley can get in there and play spoiler. Yep. I don't know. That's how I see it.
I really like this Burley team, I think, is that potential spoiler. Just a couple of quick notes. Coming into the season, Mountain Home and Jerome each had a big three. We think of the NBA a lot in the big three. They each had 3 returning all-conference players. For Mountain Home, you mentioned Alexi Longhurst, but also Ava Johnson and then Julie Dinez. And then for Jerome, you mentioned Jensen Cook and Emily Lloyd, who are both banged up. Emma Allen, first-team all-conference performer for Jerome last year. She has been a fun player to watch the last several years for the Tigers. You mentioned Minico kind of rebuilding. They're going to lean on JC Stroud. She was a complimentary player last year CJ Lotta took a lot of shots, scored a lot of points, was the main assists person, even one of the top rebounders. It's going to be a team effort to fill all of that production that was lost when CJ Lotta graduated. Twin Falls, their coach, Micah Maya, I thought had been doing a really nice job building up that program. He's the head coach at Centennial now over in Boise. Darn it, they keep poaching all the good coaches like Keelan McCaffrey as well from Minico football. So that's where he's at. So you mentioned new coach there, Coach Cato. And then this Burley team, I really like a name that I heard a lot from coaches in the preseason as kind of a player to keep an eye on, Audrey Castaneda from Burley. Younger player, but has potential off the charts. Yeah, no, they certainly have got some players that if they develop right and they come around could really fit nicely into Nicole Baker's system, Baker's coming in now with some experience under her belt in her 3rd year, and that makes a huge difference. As a young coach, your head's always on a swivel. You're always second guessing. You're always wondering. But now that you kind of get your feet a little bit cemented, you can focus in on some more things. And I think Baker's primed to get a young team gelling at the right time. So I agree. This could be a very good spoiler team. For sure. All right, let's go to the Class 4A ranks, the Sawtooth Central Idaho Conference, the SCIC. Really wild responses in terms of our preseason coaches poll, Scott. We had 4 different teams, I think, get a first place vote. We had 4 different teams get a 4th place or a 5th place vote. So really, who knows? We think, Wood River at number 5 out of 5. They've got a tall order, but 1 through 4, the way it ended up in our official preseason poll was Kimberly 1, Gooding 2, Filer 3, Buell 4. But you could really, that top 4, put them in a hat and shake it up, and we'll see. Yeah, this conference is so wide open this year. I mean, Filer has been kind of the queens of the mountain for quite some time, but now it is about, I think, as even as they get. And you want to start with, let's start with Filer. Clayton Nebeker steps down, brand new coach coming in. But they have 3 key returners coming back in Reese Hills and Tanley Lemoyne, who are both second-team all-conference, and then Aubrey Westling coming back. So they've got a core there, but they did lose some really good players last year, including Hazel Fisher and Kate Jakes and Allie Bishop. And those ladies are hard to replace, so now you got a new coach, new system, lost your 3 core players. How are you going to do? So on paper, it looks kind of like a rebuilding year, but it is Filer, and they have been good for a very long time. So we'll see how they go. But Kimberly, on the other hand, Scott Plew in his 3rd year, they lost to Filer, by 5 in that district championship game before having to kind of squeak by in a play-in game to get to state. But they're bringing back 5 returning players and with state experience, which I think is huge for Kimberly, led by Taya Plew, first-team all-conference. But, I think that when you talk to Coach Plew, it's like, I think he thinks that they're going to be a lot better from the perimeter this year. Maybe even better than they were last year, and so that puts Kimberly maybe just slightly ahead, in that conference race. But then again, you still got 2 other teams you got to worry about, and that's Gooding and Buell, because anybody could come in. Gooding, Derek Lyons, in his 5th year, he did lose
two key players, and one of them was huge, and that's, Audrey Schilder, who was just a stat machine. I think it was double every night for her. But that's a huge piece to replace. But it's a young team, and senior Fallon McMillan's going to have to lead this group. She's going to have to lead a bunch of freshmen and sophomores on this Gooding team. And then if they can get that gelling together, then, why not Gooding be in the mix as well? But then you've got Buell and Jessica Montgomery, who was kind of a basketball mind, formerly Jessica Two's running the school of basketball, but now she's in her third year at Buell. And we know it's a well-coached team, and we know that they are going to be able to score. So, man, I don't even know what to think looking at this conference, truly.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So Filer, new coach, Karen Holm, 26 years of coaching experience in Nevada, to the south of us. So she's a rookie in Idaho, but not a rookie in girls basketball. She was very complimentary of Clayton Nebeker and the job he did building up that program. She said, basically, he set the bar pretty high, and we're just trying to maintain that status. So we'll see if Filer can do that. Kimberly, they've got a couple of Blues on the team that I think could contend for Conference Player of the Year. I do agree with you. I think I like Kimberly right now, but maybe one of these teams gels together and surges past Kimberly at the end of the season. Gooding, you mentioned it. They lost Izzy Stockham and Schilder to graduation.
Yep.
A lot of young players. Buell, a lot of good shooters, a lot of young shooters. Coach Montgomery as well passed off the family business that Two's basketball school to her younger sister at Taya Two's. And so she is focusing just on Buell girls basketball along with her family. So that's going to be kind of a renewed focus there. And then let's talk about Wood River, because they dropped down from 5A to 4A for competitive reasons. And yet you would think, okay, just like in football, they're probably going to make the playoffs their first year. No, this is a tall rebuilding order. Kevin Stilling is the athletic director there. He's also been the girls basketball coach the past couple of years. And Scott, they were set to bring back, I think, like 10 players from last year, but he said, 12 girls were supposed to be back from last year. But Coach Stilling says, hey, due to injuries and disinterest, we're actually without 6 of those 12. So they're already playing with a shorter deck.
Yeah, that's interesting too, and Wood River is just a different animal. We've talked about this before, especially in the winter, because when you're living in Sun Valley at the base of Bald Mountain, skiing and snowboarding and all of that kind of stuff really takes precedence, and hockey too. I mean, that is a town that runs on a different schedule and different interests than everybody else. And so, I've always believed that, well, and so is everybody else, winter sports is hard in Wood River. You're going to get these teams that come along that are going to be really, really good because they've got a great player coming in, whether it's on the girls' side, Kat Martinez from a few years ago. And, they'll get those types. But overall, man, that is hard. And Kevin is another good friend of mine, and he is really trying to do something here, at least build it back to a culture that kids are coming out. And it's a struggle right now.
And then he had players that were eager to return, like sophomore guard Toby Stilling, who led the team in minutes last year. Well, she injures her ACL. She's going to miss the entire season. How about Emmy Nilsson, senior forward? She started every game as a sophomore, but suffered a career-ending injury last season. So that is like 2 other players that you were counting on that aren't there. And really, you've got to give credit to Taylor Heitzman, the junior, the only returning all-conference player. Yeah. Coach Stilling says we have 3 girls who haven't played basketball since middle school. They're all seniors, and they're all soccer players recruited by Taylor Heitzman.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is Taylor Heitzman's team. I mean, it really is, from on the floor to the recruiting to everything else. And, and you're right, kind of big shout out to her for at least trying to get kids out and keep a program alive, because, we're seeing a lot of teams now that can't put 3 girls basketball teams together anymore. Minico's one of them. Minico doesn't have a either a JV or a C team. They've got 2 teams, and that's it. And we're seeing it more and more and more. And without like Taylor Heitzman going in and getting those kids, I mean, who knows where Wood River would be, you know, because we are seeing across the board a lot of disinterest, you know, and it's not just Wood River, but it's across the board. And so it sucks to see, but it is what it is these days.
At my high school, which would have been like a 5A school in Idaho, I got cut from the basketball team my sophomore year because, you know, I'm like 6'4", but we had guys that were like 6'8", 6'7", and they were like, we'll just go with these taller guys. I would have run through a brick wall to make the team. And now my old high school, Scott, they've got like 8 kids out. I'm like, what happened here? Like what? But it's like a nationwide thing that's happening, and Idaho is certainly feeling the squeeze. Last note on Wood River, Coach Stilling, he summed it up this way with all the new players that haven't played basketball in such a long time. He said, I've told them this is like learning a new language while you're out of breath and holding a ball. Because in soccer, you're used to just running with your feet, not having to do much with your hands. Exact opposite in basketball. Kind of reminds me of the old Green Bay Packers story with Vince Lombardi. Gentlemen, this is a football.
Right.
And Paul Horning's taking notes. And, well, can you slow down, Coach? You're going too fast.
That is exactly what Stilling is going through right now. And, you know, if you remember a couple of years ago, he stepped in and coached the boys soccer team as well. And so, I mean, this guy is just jumping in and coaching these teams that either can't get a coach or something happens and he has to step in or whatever. But this guy is all over the place. And this is probably his biggest challenge that he's ever had, because he used to be the football coach at Wood River years and years ago, you know, so just, man, but he has got his work cut out for him. So find the victories in the small things and not on the scoreboard. And that's all you can do in a situation like that.
Yep. So that'll be an interesting story to watch as the season goes along up there in Wood River. Okay, let's go to the 3A ranks, Scott. We've mentioned this in all of the other sports. Declo and Wendell have kind of hitched their wagon to the Southeast Idaho Conference. It's District 4 and 5 playing together in 1. And so a lot of uncertainty here in the preseason coaches poll. Malad was picked first. They missed out on state last year. Soda Springs picked second. They've kind of had the run of the league the last several years. Declo was picked third. West Side 4, Wendell 5, Aberdeen 6. This is a league where the reigning league champ, Bear Lake, also the reigning state champ, they moved up a level to the 4A ranks, so they're gone. And so for Declo especially, this seems like a pretty good opportunity for the Hornets to break through. They've always gotten to state by winning that Canyon Conference. Now they're going to have to really earn it by winning a league that's deeper and tougher. And by the way, a late coaching switch as well. Brad Caracia, who formerly was coaching the Burley boys, takes over the team late summer, early fall. And Declo's always got athletes. I'm really intrigued to see where both Declo and Wendell finish in this hierarchy.
Yeah, it really is, because anytime you get this new conference coming in, you just don't know how it's all going to match up and shake out. And, you know, so far, obviously, Malad, you talked about them. They're off to a great start, 5-1 on the season. But, you know, this Declo team with the late hire and Brad Caracia, who left Burley, you know, he inherits a team that went 17-7 last year and went to state, but they also lost a lot. You know, senior Reagan Ramsey's going to have to kind of step in and kind of be the leader of this team. Colby Schertz, Tegan Wickel, I mean, they're going to play roles in this, but again, it's a new philosophy, a new coach. How are they going to gel and come together after losing so much? And it'll be interesting. And then on Wendell's side, Tia Stanley in her second year, I mean, she's coming off a 3-17 campaign. She's trying to build a culture. I mean, that's let's start from scratch type of deal, and let's see what we can do. And that's just going to take some time, you know. They do have the defensive MVP from last year returning, but that is just going to be a project over there for Tia. And, you know, she's a great personality. She's going to be great fit for that, just to kind of breathe some energy and life into Wendell Lady Trojan basketball. But right now, you know, you look at that conference and you're right. I mean, Malad, gosh, great start. Wendell off to a 3-0 start, you know, with wins over Wood River and Gooding and Richfield. So they're still yet to get into the teeth of their schedule, but I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out. And Malad's a tough one to top, though.
Yep. And they'll be especially motivated after missing out on state last year. I really like Coach Stanley. I think she is doing a fantastic job at Wendell, laying the groundwork, and she believes in her team, and she is trying to get them to believe in themselves. She says, we need our girls to want to take shots on offense. They're all great shooters. They just need to believe they are. Our X factor this season will be our mindset and believing. So Coach Stanley already believes in the players. If the players can believe in themselves, sky is the limit for Wendell this year, and already off to a 3-0 start, like you said. So maybe some buy-in already happening there.
Yeah, and that's part of building a culture is the mindset, and that's the toughest thing to tackle when you're taking on a project like Tia's doing. But I wish her nothing but the best, and hopefully Wendell can keep it going and get it going.
Yep. All right, let's go to the Class 2A ranked Scott, the old Snake River Conference. This is a league you have become quite familiar with over the past couple of years because Jerome always seems to be hosting district tournament games for this conference. It's always changing. There's always teams departing and teams arriving. This year's Snake River Conference is an 8-team league. And of course, there's a tie at the top of our preseason coaches poll, just like there was in football this year. Oakley and Valley, they were the two teams that got to state last year from this conference. They are tied for first atop the preseason poll. Raft River third, Murtaugh fourth, Hagerman fifth, Glens Ferry and Shoshone tied for sixth. This is going to be a fun battle once again.
Yeah, this is going to be a really good battle. My gosh, Oakley and Kristen Jones, they return a lot of players, including one of the better shooters in the conference in Talon Beck. But, you factor in Wadsworth and Burlingame and Berlin and Masada. I mean, this is a group that's like really works well together. And they can really spread you out offensively because they have to make you guard them from the perimeter as well as the paint. And, man, this is going to be a really fun team to watch. And then Valley, on the other hand, they lost nobody from a state team a year ago that was the youngest team at the state tournament. They bring everybody back, including Lexi Hudig, Joni Lewis, and freshman post Emily Hudig is going to give them a little bit of presence in the paint. But man, a team that was at state last year bringing everybody back, man, you can't ignore that. And so this is going to be, I think, a really good battle between Oakley and Valley, who are tied at first place, I guess, in the preseason poll. But don't count out like Raft River. Raft River is going to come in with a little bit of chip on their shoulder because they missed out on state last year. And this was a really good team that went 17-5 in the regular season and missed out on state. And so they're maybe a little hungry. I don't know. We'll see, and after winning state 2 years ago. So I don't know. We'll see what Coach Bart Dieters has up his sleeve, but he's got Udy and Knutson coming back. So I don't count Raft River out either.
Yeah. Oakley, Valley, Raft River all went 7-1. Actually, sorry. Oakley, Raft River, and Murtaugh all went 7-1 last year. And Murtaugh and Raft River were the two that were on the outside looking in. So let's break down that top four, and then we can talk about the bottom four. So Kristen Jones, second year at Oakley. This year, it's all about the 3 Ps: prepare, perform, and progress. I like it. Talon Beck, Coach Jones says, might be one of the best pure shooters to ever come through the Oakley program. And there's been some great players that have come through that program over the years. So that's high praise. I'm interested in, obviously, Valley is going to be the team with the target on its back. I think Lexi Hudig is your conference MVP. I think she's going to win Player of the Year. She's fantastic. Derek Malone doing a great job there. I'm intrigued to see how Raft River and Murtaugh adapt. Murtaugh especially, because Todd Jensen, who had been coaching there since, I don't know, long time, he is gone now. He is now coaching boys basketball at Butte County High School up in Arco. So he's not even the athletic director anymore. Well, I guess it must be a 2-for-1 deal where Kristen Young the previous athletic director at Filer. She takes the AD job at Murtaugh, and now she's also coaching the girls basketball team. So it's kind of a double dip there, just like Jensen had. I'm intrigued to see what she can do with this Murtaugh team. She has been a coach in the past. It's been a couple of years since she went to the admin side. So that's kind of a storyline that I'm intrigued to see, as well as how Coach Young does getting back into the coaching ranks.
Yeah, that's a lot of responsibility. I mean, even though it's a smaller school, you're still in charge of everything. And then trying to be a head coach is tough. But, she's taking on a program that won a state trophy last year. I mean, they were consolation champions, finished with a 20-5 record, I believe. But then they pretty much emptied the cupboard. She is in a complete rebuild mode. I mean, she's got Val Alvarez and Emma Benitez coming back. But, I mean, really, this is a team that graduated a lot. And so now you got, I don't want to say first-year coach, but first year at Murtaugh, trying to rebuild this thing. So we'll see how well that comes together.
Yep. And then you had the bottom three in our preseason poll, 7-team conference. I miscounted earlier. Hagerman, Glens Ferry, and Shoshone. Shoshone led by Melissa Martin in her second season, still kind of building up after a legendary class kind of headlined by Carly Chapman and some others graduated. Glens Ferry is led by Carly McCone, former player. Her mom, Kelly, I believe, is still an assistant coach, and Kelly is the AD at Glens Ferry as well. So mom and daughter coaching together. I think Glens Ferry is a team that has some potential. Peyton Stewart was an all-conference player last year, as well as, Sahira Arevalo was an all-conference player last year. They've got Maddie Spriggs. And then Hagerman's kind of the new team in the mix here. They're moving up from 1A to 2A, Scott. And they were kind of picked right in the middle. I'm intrigued to see how Hagerman does in this new league.
Yeah, Hagerman, they've got a really cool vibe going on in that town right now. We've seen it from football, but this is a girls basketball team with another first-year coach. Like you mentioned, Peyton Lopez coming back. She was honorable mention all conference, but they're going to need some other players to step it up. I mean, Hagerman they're in a dogfight in this conference, and it is going to be tough for them to compete unless they really somehow get it together. But they do have some people coming back, and if they do gel, they could be a surprise. They're one of the smaller schools in this 2A Snake River Conference, but I don't know. I mean, it's a tough order. And then, you talk about Glens Ferry. Again, they're getting lost in this conference. But, they do have a really good coach, and in her third season, and, 4 seniors, gosh dang, that were lost. So, I mean, there's a little rebuild there. And then, Shoshone is with their second-year coach, just trying to get back on track. And I don't know. I think those bottom 3, I think there's a big drop right now in those bottom 3 versus everybody else. But it's not to say that they couldn't gel and have something happen. But right now on paper, there's a separation, I think.
I'll buy some stock on Glens Ferry. If you told me Glens Ferry was playing like in the third place game at the district tournament, okay, that would totally shock me. That basically means you're a top 4 finish at districts. I could see that happening somewhere along the way. Okay, let's wrap up, Scott, with Class 1A's Snake River Sawtooth Conference. This was a 4-team affair last year. It was Dietrich and Richfield and Camas County and Hagerman, actually. Well, Hagerman's gone. And if you'll remember, Scott, we talked about this last year. Dietrich and Richfield were 2 of the 3 best teams in the entire state for girls basketball, and only 1 team got to go to the state tournament. It was just really tragic for Richfield. And then for Dietrich, tragic in a different way. They get to the state championship game. They get to overtime. They fall to Kendrick, I think by a point in overtime. And then their head coach for a long time, Rick Estelle, passes away in the spring. And so now you've got Dietrich with assistant coach Charlie Bingham taking the reins for the first time this year. So it's Dietrich and Richfield, but then complicating things, Scott, are these drop downs. Carey, Castleford, and Hanson all drop down from 2A to 1A. and it's actually Carey and Dietrich that are favored in the preseason coaches poll. Richfield was picked third. Castleford and Hanson tied for fourth, and then Camas County picked to finish sixth. This also is going to be a very intriguing league this year.
Yeah, again, it's same league, different sport, same kind of issues. It's going to be a battle with these teams. And, you know, we talk a lot over the years about how good Richfield and Dietrich are in girls basketball. And again, here we are. I mean, Richfield 15-6 last season, you know, and 3 of their losses, I mean, came against Dietrich. So, I mean, Buck Hendren, he's been around a long time, and so he knows how to do this. I mean, I think he's 13 years into this. But they did lose their conference player of the year in Casey Hendren and 3-year starting center Shelby Jones. And up in your neck of the wood, Montana Western and Dillon, right? Isn't that where Hendren went?
Yes.
So here's Richfield, but they've got an experienced coach coming in or returning, and they'll be right in the mix, I think. But I think Dietrich is the interesting one for me. I mean, they're coming off a 20-4 campaign. The heartbreaking loss that you talked about, how are they going to handle that? You know, how are they going to handle the emotion of losing Rick Estelle? You know, I mean, what are they going to do? Charlie Bingham takes over, but, you know, this is a team that's really, I don't want to say rebuilding, they're reloading, because they did lose a lot. I think they lost like 6 seniors from last year, but they always seem to replace them quite well. So I don't know. This conference is really interesting to me. And then on Carey's side, Paige Black and Andy Simpson are going to lead the way for Carey. And we'll see how they fit into this mix.
Andy Simpson could be the conference player of the year as a sophomore. I mean, she was first team all conference at the 2A level last year as a freshman. So yeah, I Carey is the team I think I would lean towards, just because they bring back a little more. Dietrich also brings back some really good pieces. And then I think, yeah, Richfield is maybe a half step below them, but Richfield plays that really grueling defense where you can't even breathe and somebody's going to be in your face, and they just frustrate the heck out of you as an opponent. And so I never count out Richfield, especially with that defense that they play. They just smother you defensively. The bottom 3 teams, you've got Castleford dropping down. It's been a tough go of it. They've got a new coach this year, just trying to build the foundations of a program. Hanson is in the same boat, just trying to rebuild. And then you talk about the third team, Camas County. Scott, this is a program that's teetering on just having enough players to play. The season basically got shut down after 3 games last year. Remember, we talked about they had that game where somebody got injured and somebody fouled out and somebody else got in, and they like finished the game with 3 girls. They finished 5-on-3. And then after that, they were like, we can't continue. And they shut down the season. So for Camas, if they can finish a season, I think that's going to be a big win for them this year.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, after going through what they went through, I mean, just playing every game, no matter what happens, is a step in the right direction. You just hate to see that. But, you know, I know we talked about this before, but was it 2-3 years ago that you were calling Camas at the state tournament? And that was an issue that they were, because they had 6 players on the bench. Is that correct? Or it was something along those lines?
Yeah, they had 7 players, and 4 of them were going to graduate. And so they were already like, okay, what do we do? And like at the time, their coach, John Boats, told me, like, basically, when we scrimmage and practice, we pull in younger siblings, we pull in assistant coaches, we use chairs sometimes as defenders, which can be difficult, certainly. So speaking of that, Scott, that team featured Ashley Boats, who was a great player for Camas County. She's already a head coach, Scott. She is the head coach this year at Hagerman.
Yeah. I was wondering if you're going to bring that up, because that was the dad Boats was running the show back then when you were calling it, that you were talking about. And now here comes Ashley. Man, it just seems like she was playing last year. And now she's the head coach at Hagerman. So good for her. Get started early. Get started young.
Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, for those 3 teams at the bottom, Castleford, Hanson, and Camas County, just try to kind of like a Wood River, find those victories within the game, because it's going to be tough against that top half of the league with Cary and Dietrich and Richfield, certainly. But good luck to all of the coaches there. For Hanson, TJ Berry, I think it is 3rd or 4th year, and then Castleford, brand new coach in Madison Brubaker. So Scott, there's going to be a lot of fun teams to watch this year at the top. Certainly, I'm looking at 5A, 4A, and 2A especially as leagues where not only could teams return home with trophies, but maybe that blue trophy for first place.
Yeah, there's some really good teams in this valley at a lot of those levels. So keep your eye on a lot of these. It's going to be a fun ride because there's not one conference down here that you look at it and go, there's your lock. You just don't. And that's what makes it fun.
Yep. It's going to be a lot of fun. We will bring you some X's and O's talk throughout the season, but we are also on the hunt for those great stories like Wood River having to recruit 3 soccer players just to come out and play basketball. Those human interest stories. That's what we're on the hunt for. So if you know of a great story, something remarkable happened with a young man or woman or a coach or a community, please, you can email either one of us, Brandon at IdahoSports.com or Scott at IdahoSports.com. And we love getting those story ideas for the show.
Absolutely. Beyond the box score. Those are the fun things to talk about. So absolutely hit us up, and we'd be happy to chat with you and kind of bring these stories to life that people don't see when they go to a game.
For sure. All right, Scott, enjoy the Callan Memorial Tournament this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. We've got some really good teams from 6A Timberline coming down to Butte County. Obviously Jerome, Mountain Home. We're going to have some of the smaller ones. I think Raft River and Murtaugh are going to join us. So, we have got a wide range of teams, and we just matched them up. And I think we're going to have some really good games. And then, we do something here at this tournament on Friday night where, we serve everybody dinner, and then we go into the gym. And since it's kind of like right around Christmas time, or it's Christmas month rather, we play reindeer games, right? So we're having 3-point contests, free throw contest, hot shot contest, all with prizes. We're going to be blasting some Christmas music as we're doing this. I'm going to be mid-court on a mic, just kind of emceeing and narrating as we go and rallying everybody up and having a good time. And that's one of the things that we do at this Callan tournament that is unique. And it's been a lot of fun, and a lot of people have really enjoyed that part of it because that's something they don't get anywhere else. So we're looking forward to it.
Yep, it'll be a lot of fun for sure. Cary is also hosting their holiday tournament this weekend. Also, a little 4-team affair there. So it has started, Scott. We are in the thick of it. And next week, we will break down all of the boys' basketball storylines. And spoiler alert, a lot of the schools we mentioned as contenders on the girls' side are also going to be in contention on the boys' side for hoops also. So, all right, Scott, rest up.
That's right. I got to go get back to my office and get ready for this tournament. We all have teams coming in here in about 3 hours or so.
All right.
It'll be fun.
The welcoming committee is getting ready. So thanks for tuning into the Magic Valley Prepcast, everybody. Enjoy the competition this weekend, and we'll see you back here next week for another edition. For Scott Burton, I'm Brandon Baney. Thanks for tuning in on IdahoSports.com.